I'm really, really excited about this Sunday. This is Jami, and Jami has been with this church for a couple of years now, right? Yeah, and it just hit me one day to ask Jami if she would like to tell her story with us. After we picked her up from the floor, she agreed, and so we were really excited to have her here. She's been working on it, and I don't want to talk too much because I really want to listen, and I just want to, if you guys will just give a nice welcome to Jami here.
Morning, you guys. So when Trevor asked me to give a sermon, it freaked me out a little bit, so I knew I had to do it. He let me set the date, and I chose one like a few months down the road, thinking that would give me lots of time, but it came really fast. But I'm excited to be here to speak with all of you. Pastor Trevor let me have free rein on what I could talk about today, and I am a science educator by trade, so I'm not a scholar on the Bible or a pastor, so I wanted to speak with you about something that I am an expert in, and that's the journey that I've gone through spiritually, the struggles that I've had along the way so far, and why this church has become home for me. In writing my message, I took inspiration from this book right here. It's If the Church Were Christian by Philip Goley. Like some of you here today, I did grow up in church. I grew up at the United Methodist Church in Broken Bow. In elementary, I remember singing in the choir and completing the leaflet lesson every Sunday. In 6th grade, I went through confirmation. That day I was confirmed was really special to me, and I remember right before I went to sleep, I declared to my mom that this was the most important day of my life, second only to my wedding day. In 7th grade Sunday school, there were quite a few Sundays when I was the only one in class, so I had a lot of one-on-one time with my teacher. My 8th grade Sunday school teacher was a little better about drawing people to class because he brought donuts every day and gave us pop for the pop machine, and we got to play foosball, so there were more classmates in that class. My years in Sunday school resulted in my learning of many biblical stories, how to identify every sin, and what I needed to believe so I didn't commit one of those sins and disappoint God. The end of middle school into high school is where things really started getting interesting and memorable in my spiritual journey and in my search for the meaning of church. Around that time, I went to church camp at Chadron called Camp Norwesca. This was the second time I'd been to this camp, and I was eager to experience everything I had the previous summer. The awe of biblical miracles and stories within an environment of ponderosa pine trees, campfires, good company, and outdoor worship sessions. During one such worship session, that second time, we were visiting the story of Noah's Ark. The Bible goes into details about the ark and the journey that Noah took, and the purpose of the journey. I don't remember the purpose of the lesson that we did, but I do remember an activity that we completed as part of the lesson. We were tasked with measuring out the ark and creating a sort of model of the ark to help us visualize the story. We were given a yardstick, and we counted off the yards according to the size in the Bible. Once I got to that size of the ark and looked at what this ark would have been like, I immediately had a new feeling that I'd never before remembered experiencing in the context of church. That feeling was doubt. I've always been fascinated with animals and had spent hours of childhood reading books about all the different types. When I looked at the size of this ark and thought about everything I knew about animals, I couldn't believe for 1 second that Noah had managed to wrangle every single type and a male and female of every single type onto this boat. For one, I don't know how he told the difference between male and female of frogs and turtles. I don't know how to tell those, and I was in wildlife biology in college. I don't know. How did he keep all the animals getting along with each other? How many animals did he have to bring as food for the bigger animals? These were all very confusing questions to me. And then there's a bigger, more important question with this story, and that was, why would God wipe out every other living thing with a giant flood because the sins of people had been so great? Why was he punishing the animals for the sins of humans? I could not reconcile that God with the God that wanted us to show love to our neighbors and to treat the earth kindly. This angry, vengeful God who couldn't forgive. If I couldn't believe this, what else was I going to find issue with? That day at camp, much of what I understood and accepted about my faith came into question, and a new chapter of my journey began. In the coming months after I'd returned home from camp, I continued experiencing doubt with increasing frequency during sermons, Sunday school, and my interactions with the Christian community at large. In Sunday school, I started answering questions not in the way that I felt connected with, but in a way that I believed my teacher wanted me to answer. Only occasionally did I stir the pot with a pointed question about something I had doubt about. I didn't feel that my church leaders at the time were going to be able to answer my questions in a way that wasn't some variation of, you just have to believe. That's what faith is about. So I kept quiet for the most part. There were just too many stories that didn't match up with the image that I had of God or the things that I understood about the world. My thoughts about what to believe did not live only at church. At school, my best friend Sarah and I started talking about church and our beliefs. While I had started questioning the meaning of many a story in the Bible, she was leaning deeper into the stories, and we spent many an hour deep in conversation and argument with each other. I didn't really know if anyone else felt the same way I did, filled with questions and doubts. And I was too in my own head to ask or to rock the boat. By luck or something stronger, I found a book in the pile on my mom's dresser that addressed many of the exact questions I was having. I brought it up to her, and she confessed that she wanted to see new insights into biblical stories, and that's why she had the book. Reading the book and talking to my mom, I felt excited and hopeful for the first time since the doubt had begun at camp. After reading a few chapters, I felt deeply convinced that I had found the right answers to my questions, the right factual beliefs. And so I set about trying to convince my friend Sarah. During school hours, our teachers probably thought we were a little weird. She took her Bible around with her all day, and I had my book on biblical theology. Those were not the typical accessories or conversations of the average high school student. At this point in my life, I knew I was missing the forest for the trees, but I had to study those trees up close before I could draw conclusions about the overall meanings. This struggle with doubt that I had during my teenage years brings me to a vital question about Christianity. How often in our spiritual Christian journeys do we focus more on what to believe and what rules need following, rather than asking ourselves what is most important? And what is most important? In high school, I thought the most important thing was making sense of the more confusing, doubtful parts of the Bible. This is where I was in my spiritual journey when I entered college. In my first summer during college, I ventured back to Camp Norwesca. This time I was a camp counselor. Together with one other counselor and the program director, we took on the whole gamut of responsibilities required to lead campers through their time at camp. Some of those responsibilities came easily, such as leading nature walks or helping in the kitchen or leading games. Oh shoot, I forgot my pictures. So here's me when I was little at Camp Norwesca, right here. And my sister Audrey, who's here with me today. And this is when I ventured back as a camp counselor. Now, this part was what I was uncomfortable with, the leading worship part. Occasionally, we'd have a pastor that would come in and take on this responsibility, but sometimes we didn't, so that responsibility fell on my shoulders. And I was so anxious that I would tell the kids there's something wrong, or that I'd plant a seed of doubt in their minds like I had experienced. Since then, I've come to understand that doubt can be a good thing in the long run, but it's always an uncomfortable thing. Thankfully, during my time at camp, I never had to lead a lesson on Noah. I am not a biblical scholar, and I do not know all the meanings of that story or of many things in the Bible, and I had trouble with that for a long time. But now I know that that's okay. I've come to the understanding that not all things found in the Bible showcase God's love, and not all things in the Bible tell us how we should live our lives. But I have found that Jesus' example teaches us a lot about how to live through love. So at Camp Norwesca, I led many lessons on the stories of Jesus. Jesus wasn't a rule follower above all else. He followed the rule if it made sense and it aligned with a way that he could show compassion to others or find justice for the weak and powerless. And there are many examples in the Bible where he did break the rules. He wasn't one who tried to fit in with social norms or hang out with the most popular people or try to get along with everyone. In one such story of the Bible, we looked to John chapter 5, and Jesus was on his way to a Jewish feast when he encountered a man who was blind and paralyzed. This man had been waiting for a long time to be healed beside the pool of Bethzatha. Jesus spoke to him, asking him if he wanted to be healed, and when he replied affirmatively, Jesus told him to pick up his bedroll and walk. In this situation, Jesus had a choice between following Jewish law and showing grace. He chose grace. Jesus broke the Jewish law, not for the first time, because he put priority on love over law. It's interesting to me that people objected to the breaking of rules, but they did. They weren't concerned about the reason for this exception. They were concerned about the rules, the way things needed to be done. They missed the point. I love what Philip Goley says in his book. He says, the Christian life is an invitation to awareness, to be mindful of our right doings and wrongdoings, our deeper impulses and motives. Valuing gracious behavior over right belief begins with awareness, our willingness to temporarily suspend a good thing, doctrine or law, so that we can be faithful to a better thing, grace. Today, no doubt because of my finding this church and staying a while, my understanding of what's most important has evolved. The message here is so simple and so clear. We've heard it multiple times already today. Today, the most important thing is living in the way that continues the grace and love we've seen in the examples of Jesus and of people around us. When we loosen our white-knuckle grip on rules outlined in the Bible and on trying to believe the right things, something much richer is able to emerge. The Christian church has understandably gotten a bad reputation for upholding certain rules about marriage, race, sexuality, women, and more that many Christians claim are biblically supported. But when we look at how Jesus lived his life, how can we possibly continue to believe that enforcing the rules is the most important thing? Especially when enforcing these rules impedes love. Reflecting on my journey has inspired me to think deeply about why I feel so overwhelmingly grateful for Neighbors Church. At Neighbors, I feel this deeper purpose of Christianity so clearly. It gives me so much hope because as I look around and see the kids in the audience, I really believe that they're getting to grow up in a church that has its priorities aligned with the priorities Jesus showed through his actions in life. The chief priority here is not believing the right things. It isn't learning all the right rules and policing others to follow these rules and excluding others because of these rules. The priority here is love, plain and simple. This hasn't been a church that just professes the message, but a community of people that live into that mission. I hope that the kids and the adults here feel comfortable asking hard questions when they're having doubts, but also that they understand and experience the most important reason we're here. I look around and see people from all walks of life, and I'm so thankful that Neighbors Church has brought us together. I hope everyone feels as welcome here as I have been. A 27th Street billboard is what drew me to Neighbors Church, but everything that this community offers has kept me here. I hope you experience the love here as I have. Thank you.